From UFOs to possible, the best proof yet, life on another planet, K218b could be home to life. On April 17 of this year, NASA released data that could completely change our understanding of space. Signs of life were discovered on a distant planet with a probability of 99.7%. This planet is K218b, located 124 light-years away from us. In its atmosphere, chemical compounds were detected that on Earth are almost always associated with living organisms. Moreover, their concentration is 1,000 times higher than on our planet. If these substances are truly the result of biological activity as they are here on Earth, then right now there may not just be life out there, but a thriving ocean of biological diversity. Amazingly, everything points to K218b being a water world, a planet covered with deep oceans hiding active life. Life that might be completely unlike anything on Earth. Music, 2015, the Kepler Space Telescope, having begun its K2 second light mission, scans the depths of space. Over the course of this mission, it discovers more than 1,200 distant planets. Among them, one especially captures scientists' attention, a planet with mysterious signs of potential habitability. It's almost 2.5 times larger and nearly 9 times heavier than our home planet. Scientists name it K218b. 2017, the Spitzer telescope joins the research. It confirms that K218b is located within the habitable zone of its star, precisely where liquid water could exist on the planet's surface. Almost at the same time, a scientific observatory in Chile using the precise HARP spectrograph determines the planet's density, suggesting the presence of an ocean. The stakes rise. More and more signs suggest that life might exist on this planet. 2019, the Hubble Space Telescope makes a new discovery. Water vapor is detected in K218b's atmosphere. The possibility of a deep life-supporting ocean no longer seems like science fiction. Hope becomes tangible. 2023, the most powerful modern telescope, the James Webb Space Telescope, comes into play. Its sensors detect something that instantly shocks scientists. Traces of a chemical compound known as dimethyl sulfide DMS, a substance that with rare exceptions is almost always produced by living organisms on Earth, such as phytoplankton and other marine microbes. If this isn't an error, scientists may have found signs of life beyond Earth for the first time. Still, there wasn't complete certainty. There's always a chance it could simply be a mistake. The data might have been distorted, especially since the initial measurement was taken by a single instrument, the James Webb Space Telescope's near-infrared camera, and distinguishing dimethyl sulfide from, say, methane in that range is very difficult. Scientists were faced with a reasonable question. What if it was a glitch or a peculiar way the instrument operated? To check, NASA decides to conduct repeated observations using a different instrument and a different method. If both independent devices showed the same result, it would be possible to declare a real discovery. April 17, 2025, the James Webb Telescope uses a new instrument to perform a repeated detailed scan of K28b. This time, it's a camera operating in the mid-infrared range. The results are staggering. Signs of dimethyl sulfide are detected once again, and its concentration may be colossal. 1,000 times higher than on Earth. This isn't just any rare gas. Dimethyl sulfide is quite unusual. On Earth, it appears when microscopic algae like phytoplankton begin to decompose in the ocean. In the process of their decay, this gas is released, easily evaporating and rising into the atmosphere. And if you've ever walked along a seaside during windy weather, you've definitely smelled it. Dimethyl sulfide is what creates that characteristic ocean smell impossible to confuse with anything else. But it's not just about the smell. This gas has an important property. It's very unstable in the atmosphere. It survives only for a few days, quickly destroyed by sunlight and oxygen. This means it can't just hang around. It has to be constantly replenished. And on Earth, this replenishment is almost always linked to life. That's why the discovery brought so much awe to the scientific community. The concentration of dimethyl sulfide in K218b's atmosphere turned out to be 1,000 times higher than on Earth. What could this mean? Given how quickly this gas disappears, there's only one logical explanation. If its source is biological, as it is on Earth, there must be something alive on K218b and on a huge scale, enough to constantly sustain such a large amount of dimethyl sulfide in the atmosphere. Detecting this gas from 124 light-years away sounds almost like science fiction, but the James Webb Telescope made it a reality using a truly impressive method. Every time K218b passes in front of its star, part of the star's light filters through the planet's atmosphere. And although it's a tiny fraction of the light, it carries a wealth of information. The atmosphere acts like a filter, absorbing specific wavelengths of light depending on what gases are present. These changes in the light spectrum are like clues left by the planet itself, which the telescope captures and sends back to Earth. Astronomers collect these clues, analyze them, and use them to reconstruct the chemical composition of the atmosphere. In other words, we're basically reading the atmosphere of a distant planet via the light of its star. But to accurately understand what K28b may conceal, we need to look at the conditions in which it exists. The planet orbits the star K218, a cool red dwarf located 124 light-years away from Earth. Its orbit lies very close to the star, about 2.5 times closer than Mercury is to the Sun. However, the star itself is much smaller, cooler, and dimmer than our Sun. Thanks to this delicate cosmic balance, K218b receives approximately the same amount of heat and light as Earth. That's why it's considered potentially habitable. Scientists classify it as a so-called Hyson planet, a hypothetical exoplanet proposed in 2021, which could be completely covered by a deep ocean and hidden beneath a thick hydrogen-rich atmosphere. Additionally, it was determined that there is no ammonia in K218b's atmosphere, which also supports the idea that there may be a vast amount of water on the surface. Ammonia would simply dissolve into the ocean. But despite all these promising signs, there are serious doubts as well. If the planet is really encased in water, it might be too hot. So hot, in fact, that life as we know it simply couldn't exist. The temperature, pressure, and chemical environment could turn the ocean into a boiling inferno. Moreover, there's still an active debate about the true nature of the planet itself. Some scientists, including Dr. Nicholas Vaughan of NASA's AS Research Center, believes that K218b might not be an ocean world at all, but rather a miniature gas giant without a solid surface. If that's the case, the chances of life on this planet will almost completely vanish. However, the project's lead researcher, Professor Niku Madas Sudan from the University of Cambridge's Institute of Astronomy, views the situation with much greater optimism. It was his team that discovered signs of dimethyl sulfide and is convinced that K28b does indeed have an ocean and could be teeming with life. According to him, in the next 1 to 2 years, scientists will be able to determine with 100% accuracy whether this gas is present and whether it's a product of biological processes or has some other origin. Currently, scientists estimate the probability of signs of potential life on K28b's atmosphere at an impressive 99.7%. This is the highest level of reliability ever recorded in the search for biosignatures beyond Earth. In scientific statistics, this level of probable accuracy is referenced to as 3 sigma out of 5, meaning the confidence level is about 99.7%. For reference, during initial observations, possible signs of biological activity were detected with only 1 sigma of confidence, about 68%. But for a claim to be considered absolutely reliable by scientific standards, it needs to reach 5 sigma, 99.9994% confidence, or just 1 chance in a million that the scientists are wrong. This 5 sigma threshold was, for example, the standard required for the discovery of the Higgs boson in 2012, and the same level of precision is now expected from the data on K218b. No matter how promising it all sounds, scientists at the University of Cambridge are proceeding with caution. It's still too early to declare a sensation. To confidently claim the existence of life on K218b, researchers must first confirm the presence of dimethyl sulfide in its atmosphere with 99.9994% certainty. Then they must prove that this gas indeed has a biological origin similar to how it's produced on Earth. If this is confirmed, we would witness something truly extraordinary. The first real proof of extraterrestrial life in history. But what's even more astounding is not just the fact of its existence, but the place where it might be found. K218b is located just 124 light-years away from Earth, or about 730 trillion miles. For us humans, that distance seems absolutely insurmountable. Even trying to send a person to Mars remains a huge challenge, not to mention interstellar travel, which might forever remain beyond our reach. However, when looking at the scale of the universe itself, a distance of 124 light-years is not just small. It's barely a speck on the map. The universe stretches across 93 billion light-years. And if life is found on a planet just 124 light-years away, it would be like saying the entire universe is your homeland, and the thing you've been searching for all along was in the spare room in your apartment. This would mean that if life exists out there,